It's my perspective. Yeah, from my perspective. It's my perspective. Yeah, yo, am I wrong or is it just you? Or did my life show me some things that gave me my view? And if I went through what you went through, would I be you? I don't know. That's too many questions with no answer, but plenty chances for many lessons. Am I willing to learn that it's all perception? That the picture that I paint ain't the one that you sketching? So can we disagree without drawing a weapon? Long as I can understand that it's just your perspective. Yeah, it's my perspective. Yeah, from my perspective.
All
Doing
right.
great.
Doing
How
just
are
fine.
you?
Doing good.
Well, I mean, if I haven't told you already, I'm in business school, and so I have to do a lot of economics classes. And that's a subject that comes up a lot in economics is how directly linked is money to people's happiness and how to find that balance, how to increase a business's revenue, how to balance the markets the right way, all those different things. It all ties in together because people's attitudes and behaviors relate directly to their spending habits. And so you need to understand things like that. And so usually the kind of consensus is that money doesn't make you happier, but it does make it easier for you to achieve your goals and your dreams, which in turn tends to make you happier. So that's typically how I've looked at it. It's not the money itself, but it's what it enables you to do.
But now, Hunter, don't you
Yes.
think? And I've completed business school too many years ago, and life has taught me that when you base your happiness on things, what you acquire, what your ambitions, your goals are, then maybe you might want to assess whether those are the right things to define happiness by.
And
Because, I think a lot of folks have found out, especially as we went through the pandemic and an economic crisis. I don't know of too many households that were not hit in some form or fashion, some
mhm.
reality of what it was to have or not have finances. But I
Yeah,
think that when we base happiness strictly on the amount of money you have, we got a lot of lessons in life to learn.
yeah, and that's always one of the caveats is you gotta if you it's all about the mindset, like you said, is you can't focus your level of happiness on how much money you have. That's not where you need to be looking. It's more of what can you do with that money? What can that bring to you? What experiences can that help you have in life? What needs in your life can that take care of? And that kind of relates into I think it's Laszlo's hierarchy of needs. I think is who came up with
Yes.
that. And so you have there's certain things in life that people until they meet certain requirements in their life, certain needs they feel must be met, they're not going to worry about the next level up. So and
Mm.
safety and security, oftentimes financial, are some of the first things that people feel they have to satisfy before they can move up to things like how nice their car is, how nice their house is, or how often they can go to concerts, things like that. They're going to worry about the safety and security first. And so having a moderate amount of money that helps you maintain that level of financial security can, when you look at it that way, that can help you achieve happiness easier because you aren't constantly worried about, am I going to be able to pay my bills at the end of the month?
Well, now, in my personal opinion, if I believe that it's nice to have enough money to buy things that make you happy, but that does not necessarily give you total happiness.
Yes.
You can be happy with certain things, but you still have issues with the rest of your life. But
Yeah.
hey, it's nice to be happy every once in a while. That doesn't mean you have to be wealthy.
Not at all.
Some people are happy with different things. Some people take more money to be happy. But
that's why it's really important to recognize that the how direct or indirect the correlation really is. It's not a direct correlation as money equals happiness. It's more of, it helps most people make it a little bit easier to satisfy their basic needs, so they no longer worry about as many of the financial aspects of life. Therefore, they can focus on those things that actually do make them happier, like experiences, taking their family out to dinner or taking their family on vacation, spending time with friends. They can go out and do those things without worrying, am I going to be able to pay my rent at the end of the month?
You know what, Hunter, that thing you're saying, I say can money buy happiness? I always say, well, what situation are you talking about? Like you're saying. And I always say there's a difference between going on a trip and going on a vacation. When you go on a trip, sometimes you don't eat over here. You might pack some sandwiches. You don't go into certain venues. And then when you get home, you're like, okay, I'm going to pay this much of the light bill. I'm going to move this much towards the car note. And you start budgeting. When you go on a vacation, you go, you eat where you want to eat, you do what you want to do, and you come back just as happy, and life just keeps moving. And I think that's what I mean when I say money can buy happiness, because I want to go on a vacation versus going on a trip.
There you go.
Yeah. Yep. You don't want to have your, what's supposed to be your free time, the time that you can use to relax and de-stress, just let everything go. And you don't want to have to spend that time worrying about how much you're spending on what things.
Okay, but wait a minute. Both of you just got through talking about what you could pay for to get away or to do. What happens to the vacation is over? So what? You go home and you are now unhappy you get another vacation?
No, that's what I was saying. It depends on the scenario. It can buy me that happiness. Now, where I say money can't buy happiness is if you're using money to try and make yourself happy.
There you go.
Like if you're just showering yourself in wealth.
Yeah. When you buy, if you're depressed and so you react emotionally and buy a trip to Jamaica, I said trip, not vacation, because it's going to make you feel better. You're going to go there, you're going to party, you're going to do that, and you're going to come home, have stacked up bills, and be miserable again. So that's what I'm saying. It's all it all kind of feeds off of each other. I can be happy if I have more money, but it's not going to buy me the happiness.
Well, yeah, now as an example, I worked for Disney for a few years, and people that would come out there to Disney parks would save up for 2-3 years, maybe longer, to get enough money to bring their family out there. Now, unfortunately, it costs that much, but we don't want to get into that. But people would save for years to go to Disney and spend a week, and they would be about as happy as you can possibly get. But then, it took them a long time of probably not being very happy to get to that point.
But see, that's exactly the point that I'm trying to bring up. I wake up happy every day, and it has nothing to do with the amount of money I spend for that day or the amount of money that I have in the bank. It simply means I wake up excited because I'm alive. I have a chance to do something.
And yeah,
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's going to cost.
And you got pixie dust all over your house, right?
Pardon me?
Says you got pixie dust all over your house. Right?
No pixie dust. I have some better dust than that.
Yeah, I mean, there is a quote. I don't remember exactly, but it's something about I see a rich man whose house is burning, and yet he is hopeful with death standing at his door. It is always better to live. It is always better to live. And so, like, and essentially what that means is, as long as you're alive, there's hope. There's hope that you can turn things around because you still have a chance. You're still breathing. But at the same time, Lynn, how do you think your happiness level will be expected if you had, say, $30,000 less every year?
$30,000 less?
$30,000 less?
Less every year. Do you think you'd be just as happy as you are now, or do you think you'd be constantly worrying about your bills?
Well, what I can say is this. I've worked hard enough is that at this point in my life, I don't worry about my bills. I know I will be provided for.
But you don't worry about them for a reason. I can tell you, when I was making $30,000 less than what I make now, I was not happy.
But the bottom line is, but again, you're basing it on a number, and I'm not talking about numbers right now.
I am, because that's a reality that people will tend to ignore. Prime example, I am from Miami, Florida. It's a wonderful place. I love living there. And people, why did you move in your 20s from Miami to Texas, a little town in Texas? Well, in Miami, I made $2,200 a month. Worked a lot of hours to get those $2,200 a month, and I got offered $7,500 a month to move to Texas. So I moved to Texas.
A little town in Texas isn't that bad either.
No. The little town I was in was bad, but I made enough money to leave every weekend.
Oh, there you go. But hey, you gotta figure too that some of us have worked for a lot of years and suffered through a lot of years to get to the point where you don't necessarily worry about things because you're stable now. Not wealthy, but you've gotten to the point to where you're relatively stable.
Yeah, and that's another thing that, like, with the Can Money Buy Happiness, it's a lot of people, when they hear the question, they tend to automatically think that means wealthiness buying happiness. But we're just talking money at any level. Like, so even if you're still a lower middle class, that's still, you still have money. You're still buying things. So you don't have to be super wealthy to necessarily answer this question. And that's more my point on this, is that how well that money can help you satisfy your basic needs.
But satisfying your basic needs is not necessarily making you happy.
No, it's not.
I mean, it keeps you satisfied. You get basic needs, but you can imagine people that just because they are barely making and handling basic needs are not necessarily comfortable enough to be able to say, well, I'm happy. My rent is paid. My bills are paid. My kids have school shoes or whatever. But the bottom line is we're still saying that you can't find any level of happiness.
No.
Is that what you're saying, Hunter?
No one said
no.
And all of this are paid, I can't be happy.
And all of this is about tendencies. None of this is definite every single time. It's all about increasing your chances of being happier, your ability to be able to no longer have to worry about the things that stress you out all the time.
Right.
Well, happiness is a relative term either way. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's relative, but I think what Hunter is trying to not Hunter is trying to say. What I'm saying that's caveated to Hunter is you can be extremely happy without money. There's people that have no money, barely any, and are happy. But I can tell you, at let's say 80 years old, and being able to do some of the things that I see some 80 years olds in the community that I live do. as compared to things that I see some other 80-year-olds wishing they could do, but they can't because all they have is Social Security. They retire from their job, but that retirement isn't that great depending on their job. And there's a lot of things they want to do and they're still 80 and they can't do it just because they can't afford it. And them being able to do those kind of things could make them happier. That's all we're saying. We're not saying
I could say that being 75 myself, I'm happy just to walk around. So
Right.
Yeah, but you also get to eat every day. And I'm just saying, you're able, if you wanted to do something, Larry, you could do it. And there's some people that even what you want to do. You know, my boss was complaining one time, not my boss now, about 5 years ago. And they were like, I hate paying taxes. I owe $30,000 because I make too much money. I said, Steve, you're having a different stress than I am.
Right.
Your stress is you have to pay the IRS thousands and thousands of dollars, where I am like, how in the world would I be paying thousands and thousands of dollars?
Well, he obviously had the wrong accountant too.
He could write the check.
That's the important thing is, yeah, it's a big bill, but you can pay it.
But if you can pay it, right.
Yeah.
But now let me ask you this. Now, there have been many a corporate executive, and I can't quote the data or statistics at this point, but there have been corporate executives who made all kinds of money, finished their careers, and then all of a sudden discovered that they'd spent their lifetime working, making money, paying bills, buying things, and realized that they were not happy.
That was their fault. That was their fault. That wasn't the money.
That was their fault. Okay,
they didn't plan themselves according. My grandfather told me, make enough money, save enough money, and don't wait till you're retired to try to travel. You might be old and not like anybody.
Yeah,
because still people, it's still like you using your money to try and do things that make you happier. But in that situation, it sounds more like somebody was just making money and making money and making money and never really actually using any of it except to pay off their daily bills.
Well, and they got caught on the hamster wheel of what it took to maintain a certain lifestyle. But at the same token, they never figured out.
See if your audio's working though.
Yeah, see, some people figure that if they make a lot of money, they got to buy a lot of things to impress people, and that's just not what it takes. You know, if you're making money, that's a great thing. You need to take care of it.
The other thing is sometimes people never end up really doing what they might have a passion for that could make them happier, but they didn't find happiness in certain ways. They had happiness when I could buy the car I want, the house, I wanted, and so forth. But they'd still not captured that inner happiness, that heart happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Sorry, what was the question?
No.
Mm-hmm. I think some people think it will, but it tends to blow up in their face.
Right. I was going to say, I think that's a shallow approach.
Because they then learn about lawyers and contracts that keep them from that money.
And besides, if you need to have a lot of money to be in a relationship, it's the wrong relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I was going to say that I think, and actually this just popped up, but I really think that money can help you buy comfortability. It does not necessarily help you buy happiness.
Yes, and then that's kind of what that kind of the economics answer is to the question. It doesn't make you happier, but it tends to make it easier for you to make yourself happy, for you to do things to make you happy, because you're able to maintain a certain level of comfort just on the financial level, so that you don't have to worry about things like that.
But just
you can
because,
then go out and do the
just
things
because
that actually do make you happy. Whether you're at a point in your financials where you are able to go out and do the things that make you happy, whether or not those things actually require any money. Because you've satisfied your basic needs, you've satisfied your lower set of basic needs on the hierarchy of basic needs.
Yes, but just because you're comfortable doesn't mean you're happy with it, though.
No, it doesn't. It tends to make it easier for you to then do the things that make you happy. It's a stepping stone. Mm-hmm. And it can, yeah. It absolutely can. Yeah, it's all about. I mean, everything happiness wise depends on how you approach it yourself. So that's why it's kind of a relative term. That's why this question has never really been answered, because there's no real answer to it.
Well, no, I've got a question along those lines. If she thinks the man is boring and she's not happy. Oh, okay. I thought you said she was boring. She thought he was boring. Okay, my mistake.
Well, that might just be because he doesn't hang out and do with them what they like to do. But we got no idea what goes on behind closed doors.
Yeah. He can have his own personal DJ at his house parties, but they don't know it because they aren't invited, because they call him square and he doesn't invite them to anything.
Well, see, maybe he uses his money to do things that makes him happy.
Mm-hmm. Maybe he just goes out on long hiking trips in Montana or something. Like,
long walks on the beach.
Yeah, goes and spends time with select people.
I just think again that a lot of happiness has to come from within. I mean, we're the only ones that when we depend on somebody else to make us happy, or something else to make us happy, or money to make us happy, we may never find a moment of happiness because we're busy relying on something or someone else to make us happy.
And the hierarchy of needs thing, so one of the big things there you're talking about is very important. It's the mindset you have. And that's one of the other things at that hierarchy of needs. If you satisfy those lower two brackets, it tends to make it easier for people to break out of the mindset of thinking about money all the time, because they aren't constantly being flooded with bills that they're trying to figure out how they can pay, or worrying about, okay, I have to go get gas today. How much can I spend on groceries 2 days from now? They aren't having to worry about things like that as much. So money isn't quite so often in their mind. And then that is one of the things that helps down the road lead to them being able to focus about money less. Yeah. And that is how you start to change the mindset of where you focus the things that make you happy, so to speak.
I agree with all of that.
Right.
Well, on the basis of all that, so there's this big thing too about children, right? So people kind of dictate, should I have children? Should I not have children? And sometimes it's based on how much you have, what your financial status is. So it's a big thing going around now about, is it selfish or unselfish for people to have children, especially with the things that we're going through right now in the world. How do you feel about it?
No, why would it be selfish to have children?
Well,
Depends
some
on how
people
people
say
think.
it's because of the. Right now, the Earth really can't. Well, the Earth's society as a whole, the worldwide society, really can't sustain the growth in population that we're currently experiencing. But on the same side of it, it's kind of a moral debate. You're bringing a human into the world. How could that possibly be selfish?
Right.
And that's all. That's the big argument there.
Well, I know
I
some
think it's-
people shouldn't have kids. Some people don't want children, and that's fine. Other people do, and just because they do does not make it selfish. I
Absolutely.
think it's selfish to take your opinions and try to force them on other people.
Well, no, it will just depends on what the opinion has some factual basis, because there are some opinions that if no one forced it upon us throughout history, things would be a little worse.
Like cigarettes being bad for you.
Yeah, especially I think that's also You said that cigarette's bad for you. Remember back in the day, they told you shut up and mind your business. You don't know what you're talking about.
Well, now see, that's like wearing these silly masks that we had to wear. I had an incident just today, actually, where I had to wear a mask. I was in a physical therapy place, and I had it down to here. And some woman told me to pull it up over my nose. And, none of her business, first of all. Them paper masks don't work.
Oh, God.
And my answer to her was, if your mask actually works, what difference does it make what I'm doing?
All right, going back to the children. We're not going to all right. Yes. Let's not talk about protection. All right. So
You need protection. You need type of protection if you don't want those kids. So if you don't want kids,
it's a high level, and it can be selfish and unselfish. Of course, it is an unselfish act because you're having a kid, but if you're 18 and 19 and you're dating and you're unstable and you think she's a psycho and he's a psycho and you're in this toxic relationship, it is very selfish to bring a kid into the world when you both have it nowhere near figured out. That's when I say it's selfish, because that poor kid does not get to pick his parents.
That's very, very true. Very true.
So is the question selfish?
or
Is
unselfish.
it, are we really asking, is it selfish or is it irresponsible?
That's another
take. And then does irresponsibility signal a selfish act?
Yeah, we're just breeding words.
Maybe that's what we're
just kind of reading between
have
the lines.
some relationships where people get into, say, for instance, when you're dating people and you're talking or having that discussion about, do you want kids? And some people are not as honest because they feel like they want to be in a specific relationship. So it's like, well, if it happens, it happens. I'm not really sure which way I want to go. But the other person saying, I really, really want kids. But in the back of your mind, you really don't want them. So you're not being honest. So once you get into the marriage and you're there for a few years and you decide, okay, now I want to have kids. But then the other person is like, I told you I really didn't want them. But then you have this argument where you said, well, if it comes up, but you really have got to the point, no, I don't want any. So then is it selfish or unselfish for you to say, well, we're going to have kids regardless of how you feel, or we're going to just leave each other alone. Love doesn't matter how we feel right now because I want a child.
But if you're in a relationship and you have a difference of opinion like that, you're in the wrong relationship.
Yeah. I mean, you shouldn't have somebody forcing such a huge change to your life on you like that. Ever.
Right.
In any kind of relationship.
That
Just about kids. That's a huge deal that you should never have forced on you.
Right. That discussion should have started before you got to the word relationship.
And that's true, but there are some relationships where they do, and you're not really honest in that moment because you're feeling certain emotions and you're not really being honest with the person, telling them, no, I don't. I'm staying for it. I do not want it. And you use the terms, well, maybe later, maybe it's a possibility. But then when it comes up again, now you've changed your mind because you didn't say it at the beginning.
Hunter doesn't roll like that. I don't think this competes with us. We don't.
You know, now I saw a comment pop up that some people just shouldn't have kids.
That's a good statement.
And I don't know exactly what that's based on. I mean,
I can tell you. I can tell you what it's based. I can tell you what it's based on.
Now, if it's based on you shouldn't have kids because you're still a child yourself. You shouldn't have kids because you don't have the means to take care of them. You shouldn't have kids because you don't have the patience or the wherewithal to parent.
Mm-hmm. And maybe the question.
Oh, you're saying all the nice ones.
Maybe that statement should be more worded as.
You're saying all the nice. Hunter, don't let her get away with saying all the nice ones. No, you shouldn't have kids if you still being a hoe. Okay, let's not be nice.
There you go. There you go.
All right?
Okay.
If you spend 3 out of 4 nights in the crack house, you shouldn't be having kids. Okay.
Okay, I get
You
that.
cannot afford them. You have people out here
I
having
get
15, 20 kids just because they feel like they can. I just want to bring life to the world, but you can't take care of them.
And I think that's kind of what I was going to bring up. Is like there's an important distinction there. A child, depending on who they're raised by, how they're brought up, that is really what shapes who they are. Right. So is it more some people shouldn't have kids, or some people 70%. Shouldn't raise kids?
70%, both.
It's both. It's probably both. You can't raise them if you haven't had them.
I mean, yeah, that's obviously.
Yeah, you can get them.
A lot of kids that
say like some person that really is not in any position to raise a child has a kid. That kid, if given to, say, the right foster parents or a family member who is in a place to raise a child, that child could still have a really good life.
Yeah,
but the person has to be in the position to make that decision.
No, I'm not going to let you finish that statement, Hunter. You're picking like the ultimate scenario, hopeful scenario that you're born into this miserable family. They give you up in the nicest way possible. That's a great Disney movie. But that's not how it always works
I'm not saying it always works like that. In fact,
when you have a baby that you can't take care of, and then you put the baby in the dumpster. And so it doesn't always end like the Disney movie. And I'm saying that with shock value, but and now I'm gonna take it off the serious part. Y'all know what we're talking about. We've all been in Walmart. Okay. We've all been in Walmart. And we've all looked and seen and been like, why did y'all do that? Why did y'all make a baby?
Seriously?
You ever driven through Tallahassee?
Hey!
They don't have any discipline. They don't know how to discipline their children. That's the ones you're talking about?
No, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about the ones where either they're too young to be having children, or you can just tell something ain't right.
Well, when you're in Walmart, like what you're talking about, and you have these people walk around with their kids, and the kids are going ballistic, and they're just ignoring the fact. Those are people that shouldn't be parents.
What about the ones where the parents, the Karens, the parents are going ballistics, and the kids are just looking at them because the parent doesn't know how to act?
That's another issue. It's on the other side of the fence, but you're right. You're right. 100%.
That's the other side of the card. It's the same.
Now, are we being judgmental?
Yes.
Are we being judgmental?
Yes.
Well, isn't that what this is all about?
Yeah, we hate to say it in life, but we judge everything. It's as much as we try to pretend we don't. We do. And we've seen some, whether you've seen it as a kid, a teenager, a young adult, or now in your workplace, you've seen some people, it's like, I am so sorry for the kids that they had, because it's like they've got to deal with these two idiots.
Right.
Yes.
We've seen that too.
Yeah. So you have some people that feel like there's a lot of women, especially in this day and age, because back then people felt like that's what a woman's job was, is to have kids, birth kids, raise kids. But now a lot of women do not want them. You know, they're like, I want to work, I want to travel, I want to do all these different things. And I feel like a child is going to hold me back, or they had experiences maybe with their own parents that they felt like this is not the world I want to bring my child into. Because even for me, the world that I see now, I'm like, I feel like it's selfish of me to bring a child into it, being that it's a lot going on. But some people feel like, well, it's based on, like Hunter said earlier, how you raise them. But then is it fair for that to happen? So
Well, yeah, it's
Well,
fair because there's always going to be something going on. So we just never have kids. So
that's how some people feel. I'm just saying.
No, I get you, but like, you know how we always tell people you can't always wait for all the planets to alive. There's always some war or some famine or some phenom, or I can't say that other word. There's always something going on. Whether it's the civil rights era, whether it's there's always something going on, either politically, socially, or
mentally, physically, everything.
I mean, I was always taught, if you wait until you think everything is absolutely perfect, that you've got it all together to bring a child into the world, nobody would ever have children.
It's never going to happen.
So it's never going to happen. So
go ahead, Larry.
Once you have a child, everything isn't together anymore.
Right.
That's just a fact. But when you have your kids, like right now, I have 2 grandkids living with me, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Mm-hmm. Some people feel like the children bring them happiness that makes them complete.
That's just my opinion. And
but look what you just said, Tila. You just said some people say children bring them happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Is that selfish? Because if they're bringing them in a bad environment, how fair is that for the kid?
That's correct.
I thought you were going to go another way with that about buying children.
No. I'm just saying,
buying children. Is that what you said?
Hunter, you said buying children, but I grew up in a not so ritzy place. I knew women who would have another baby because that meant more money.
Mm-hmm. I've absolutely heard about those.
I know somebody that has a ton of children because it gives them tax deductions.
Correct.
That's
that football team they wanted.
And you think
I've seen a lot of studies about that with like fatherless kids and like the mother doing stuff like that specifically because they get a bigger check in the mail if they're single parent.
Mm-hmm.
And then the thing is, it's capped. What is it? 5 kids? Or
something like that.
So if they have more than 5, their aunt or their cousin or their friend claims that kid on their taxes, so they still get the money.
Well, right. They rent them out for tax deductions. Yes.
Yeah. So that's when I say it's selfish. You that's selfish to me. That's what I think
it is. It's very selfish.
It's selfish.
Absolutely. You're bringing kids into a world for selfish reasons, not for what you should bring them to the world. Out of love, some people want generational, that's carry my name. Everybody has their own different types of reasons. But
I gotta hire them.
Yeah, but just because those certain people are doing it, that doesn't make having kids as a whole selfish.
Correct.
Everybody thinks that's fine until you're the one that has to interview that now adult in a job interview.
I mean, I can say that my own personal, for me, having children was great.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I got grandkids living with me, and I love it. I love it. See,
Larry act like he all hard, but Larry's just a sweet old
right.
grandpa.
In spite of what
How you supposed to be?
See, that's because I haven't been opinionated yet.
Okay. Oh, they haven't heard it yet.
They're not old enough to get the opinions yet. So
we're gonna do that episode. All right.
wait till we get one of those, and my wife was going to be sitting here keeping me back, Now
I will tell you, there are folks like myself. It just never happened. I wanted children, but guess what? Something that I heard many, many years ago, freed me from the unhappiness of not having children. And that was that some of us are born to be fruit trees. Some may bear a little bit too much fruit in some people's eyes, but some of us are also born to be shade trees. And we all become part of that village that helps to take care of all of these children that are here that may be suffering or receiving or experiencing what we might see as dysfunctionality, bad parenting, or whatever, we can all step in at some point or other and be able to lend a hand. Now, for me, the good thing is I can also step out and go, okay, honey, let's go home now. Auntie's got something else to do.
Yeah, because you're not obligated to stick there. You can go pop in, pop out whenever you're ready.
But I take my fair share and I take responsibility for helping when I can. Seriously.
I mean, some of us were also meant to be. I mean, I was meant to have children. It's just that all the girls I messed with when I was younger were hoochie mamas. So I never had any kids. And then
the wrong people. What's your magnet?
Once I was in my 20s, I was just trying to find a college girl. Didn't care about your PhD. But once I got into the 30s and you start doing things for yourself for so long, you get it. Like now I'm 43. It's like, do I want kids? Because when you have kids, you can't just up and leave when you feel like it.
Right.
You can't just
Some
do
people
this.
feel like they can. Some people I know that do that. Just drop them off.
Some people do that, but I'm not the type of parent that would do that.
No, you shouldn't be.
You know, and so now it's like I had my nephew for a year and a half. And when I used to get off work, sometimes I'm like, ooh, I'm going to go buy. Oh, I can't. He needs cleats for football. Like, damn it. Why does this kid always need something?
So that's where another selfish thing comes in, when people feel like, because I have to give so much to the child, I don't have enough to give to myself. So why should I put myself in that category of saying?
Well, let me ask Lynn this question. Let me ask Lynn this question, because Lynn doesn't have any kids.
Uh-oh.
Lynn, did you? Because I had this before. Did you ever have the itch, and then you see other people's kids and you change your mind? Like every time you're like, you know what, I'm gonna have. Oh, never mind.
Every time you went to Walmart, right?
Right.
No, well, quite frankly, I never had the itch and said, never mind. It just never happened. It's not like we didn't try. It just never happened. But in the meantime, I had all the other children around me that became part of the village that I helped to nurture.
Yeah.
Have you ever been on an airplane with kids on it?
Oh,
and they kick in the back of the seat.
Even your own get to be irritating.
Now, I'm not going to say I've never been irritated.
That's a whole episode right there, Larry. People with kids. I had a friend.
Not even just kids, everyone on airplanes. They're all terrible.
I had a friend that was in an airplane.
That's what I said, even your own, yes.
And the kid kept kicking his chair. And he was kicking it so much and so loud, the parents next to him knows he's kicking the chair. So finally, my friend said he got fed up and he turned around and said, "Can you control your pet?" Or your dog.
What was that reaction?
Did
wow. He doesn't know what the reaction was because he just turned around and went back about his business. I guess he put his headphones on, but he turned around and said, "Can you control your pet?" Like in anger, because you know your kid's beating in my chair. Like, why are you saying nothing?
Mm-hmm.
And then they get very hostile about that. It's like, what did you just say? You're not controlling your child. Now you're mad.
That's what I was saying earlier. That's like the parents that shouldn't have kids.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like if your child is doing something that if they were legally an adult and they did the same thing, they could get arrested for. You need to control your kid.
No, say what you wanted to say. If your kid's doing something that would get him punched in the face.
But that goes back to like my mom used to say, and a lot of parents say the same thing. Well, it's okay because you're going to get it 10 times worse when you have yours. So it's almost like it's a cycle of it gets worse and it gets worse. So how do you control it?
But if your kids are doing stuff like that and you make no attempt, that's on you, not the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Completely true.
Yeah, they don't know until you teach them. They don't know any better.
Right.
Until someone teaches them, they don't know any better. So somebody has to do it, and that usually falls on the parents. So that's the parents.
But you see, you have to begin with having a sense of mutual respect, and some sort of compassion for what other people think, other people feel. When you have no sense of that at all, then your child kicking the back of a chair of somebody doesn't mean anything to you.
So are we talking about sociopaths?
Oh, Lord.
No,
Wow,
no.
this has been so
Nah.
interesting.
So, like,
Sociopath.
We're not going to sociopaths. We're
you're talking
not.
about people that don't have any kind of empathy towards other people.
No,
That's
I said
true.
compassion.
We've been talking about a whole lot today, from happiness to selfishness. Does money make us happy? Does children make us happy? Is it selfish to get all the money and take it all to ourselves and not have kids? What are your final thoughts on this conversation today?
I still say that money does not make you happy. It cannot buy you happiness, but there is a good chance that having some more money will make it easier for you to do the things that make you happy. Not necessarily buying things that make you happy, but it puts you in a more comfortable position in life so that you can go do those things that make you happier. And as far as having kids, I can't possibly say that is selfish to have kids. I mean, obviously there's always going to be exceptions. Certain people having kids in their specific situations, that could be a selfless decision. But as a whole, I think bringing a child into the world is always going to be a beautiful thing.
Awesome. What about you, Ms. Lynn?
No, I believe that, like I said earlier, that having money doesn't necessarily buy you happiness, but it allows you to get some things that do make you happy.
Mm-hmm.
And as for having children, again, I don't think it's selfish to have them. I don't think it's selfish to not have them. Mm-hmm. Now, there are some organizations out there that would probably have a more definite opinion than I have on that, or that I'm willing to say, but we can let that one go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Supreme Court's involved in it right now, but that's another issue.
Right. Got it. What about you, Ms. Lynn?
That's for another show.
Yes,
That's
it is.
another show, right?
Yeah.
So
that's for the
We don't
political.
get that deep here.
So I'm feeling that I agree. I know that we know that poverty can leads to misery, or can lead to misery. So yes, certain levels of money can allow you space enough or give you comfortability enough to find what makes you happy. Now, beyond that, now don't be looking because I have a philosophical, spiritual approach to stuff, sir, because that, in my wisdom, teaches me that I can find different kinds of happiness. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I liked being able to take a vacay and do what I wanted to do without worrying about
a vacation.
A vacay without worrying about whether I was going to be able to get home, pay the bills when I got home. Okay? Now, when it comes to selfish or unselfish and having children, I just think it's selfish not to love children. Rather than deal with the question of having them or not having them, because that's circumstantial. But I think having them and not loving them and not caring for them is a selfish act.
See, that's right. If you have children, you need to love them.
Good.
Unconditionally.
John, you've been in this conversation since the start. Do you have any final thoughts on both of you?
I'm not going to be I can be philosophical, but I'm not going to be nowhere near as philosophical as Lynn right now, because there's no need. Number one.
I have never known
money can't buy happiness, but like I said in my comments, when I get some money, I'm sure always happy. Look, I'm happier when I get I'm happier when I eat at Ruth's Chris and not when I had to get 4 for $4s. I'm gonna tell you that. All right. Okay. So I am a lot happier. In terms of kids, y'all can sugarcoat it and Disney it up as much as you want. I'm gonna say it very plainly. If you know you ain't shit, don't have kids. If you know you ain't shit and you ain't about nothing, don't have kids. Stop it. Now. Because I'm the one, and I never used to think this way until I actually had jobs where I had to hire people. And I'm like, how? How did this person get here?
So it's real deep.
I'm going through that right now. I'm having to hire people. It's terrible.
So my whole final thoughts on all of this, I feel it's all about choices. I'm not going to make it as long as everybody else's, but it's all about choices ultimately. You know what level of money makes you happy, makes you comfortable to do the things you want to do.
Right.
When it comes to kids, it's a personal choice as well. It shouldn't be selfish. I think it's an unselfish act to have kids, but if you do decide to do that, make sure you know how to raise them and you're able to take care of them. That will be my final thought on that. It's all about choices. Make the right choice for you.
Right.
So that's our episode of My Perspective Fridays. I hope you enjoyed. I want you to have a wonderful weekend. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment what you think about our topic today.
And drink.
Down below. And drink. Yeah, it is the weekend, so go out there and party. Y'all have a good weekend. Take care.
Good night, y'all.